Yeah, modern day lifestyles can leave us dangerously exposed to the effects of stress. As a psychologist working for over 20 years, I've seen this time and time again with people. The difference that successfully managing stress can bring to people is huge in terms of their career, in terms of their happiness and their general well-being. At times it can also save lives. Yeah, people often think about stress in purely negative terms, but stress is simply energy. Energy released in response to a demand, whether we want to win a race, fight an attacker, ride a roller coaster, give a talk, make love, the same biochemical changes take place. It's normal, it's essential, and it gives us an edge. Relaxation, of course, is really important also. But the point is that we need to find the balance. You wouldn't want your airline pilot to be too relaxed. You wouldn't want your brain surgeon to be too relaxed. We can't be too relaxed if there's something that we really need to do. So we need a burst of energy to accomplish what we need to, and then return to the resting state. That's the balance. The problem is that this doesn't happen. Often we have so many demands on us, or we make so many demands on ourselves, that the demands keep coming and we don't revert to that resting state. We don't recover. It's rather like leaving a toaster in the on position. Sooner or later something is going to burn or break. So I want to talk about avoiding overstress. Not stress, because stress is perfectly natural, but overstress. There are many sources of stress, both positive and negative. The obvious ones are things like money worries, work problems, relationship difficulties, marriage, children, home. These are the things that we think paramount are the things that are causing us overstress. But there are also physical demands on us that can be extremely stressful. Exercise is good, but over-exercising is highly stressful to the body and also to the brain. Dehydration. The brain needs a lot of water to work properly. If the brain is dehydrated, that is extremely stressful on our system. Too high or too low temperature, again, extremely stressful on our system. Clutter and mess around the place. We're taking in so many different pieces of information that, again, it makes the brain far more susceptible to feeling anxiety. So demands can be external, what others expect of us, or they can also be internal, what we perceive and what we require of ourselves. Well, given that some stressful situations can be physical, we may need to fight, we may need to run, mostly in our everyday life, these situations are psychological. We need to give a talk at work. So in those situations, the main problem is the fear of failure. We tend to interpret the fact that we're geeing up to perform with being frightened and overwhelmed. So when we start to feel that our heart is racing, that our muscles are tensing up, we don't regard it as being preparation. We regard it as being a sign that we're about to fail. And so that kind of builds on itself and we feel unable to go on, unable to cope. We start to panic, and again that continues to feed on itself. And then thinking shuts down. Sometimes we can't even speak. Okay, so thinking about the difference between manageable stress and overstress long term. If you put your right hand on your left shoulder, you just feel a little pressure. There's no lasting effects, you can easily take it off again. It's there and you can remove it. Now if you put your right hand on your shoulder and press down harder, and keep pressing down quite hard, you feel a degree of pressure. Now just imagine that over days, over months, perhaps over years, getting more and more serious and the impact increasing. that is going to injure us both psychologically and physically. Over time, we get a build-up of stress hormones, which means that we're going to feel tired, we're going to feel over-emotional, we're going to feel anxious, we're going to feel depressed. Moreover, it's going to have a big impact on the way we think. So if you just get this model of the brain, now deep inside the brain here is somewhere called the limbic system. That's the emotional brain. Part of the emotional brain, called the hippocampus, is responsible for short-term memory, it's responsible for concentration and related functions. High levels of adrenaline over time impact the hippocampus, kill cells in the hippocampus, and so therefore we find it very difficult to think clearly. In addition to that, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, starts to shrink. So what happens? We can't think clearly. We get more and more anxious, we put more and more pressure on ourselves, and eventually we collapse into exhaustion and burnout. Yes, absolutely. Short bursts of stress, or we can put it another way, short bursts of energy, have very positive effects. It boosts the immune system, it increases sexual arousal, and it triggers a positive mindset. Now, a positive mindset is really important because happy brains learn better. Happy brains process information better. In crisis, it gives us the energy to survive, and when times are calm, it gives us the energy to live life to the full. Do you wait patiently in the queue? Do you go to the nearest checkout? Or do you make an assessment before you join a queue? Do you look at how long the queue is? Do you look at how efficient the checkout operator is? Do you look at the people in the queue and try to work out how fast they're going to be? Do you look at how much shopping there is in their trolley? And when you actually join a queue, do you keep reassessing these factors and try to decide whether you should move over to another queue? The way that we view and react to simple everyday situations is a good measure of how sensitive we are to the impact of stress.